Welcome to Criminal Law Unfiltered.
Welcome to Criminal Law Unfiltered with Robert M. Helfend. Robert is the founder of Helfend Law Group. He spent more than 40 years defending clients against serious criminal charges in Los Angeles and beyond, from federal indictments to murder and sex crime allegations. He's known for building smart, aggressive defenses in the toughest cases. I'm John Lieberman, and today we're going to talk about something that impacts nearly every criminal case in this day and age, and that is social media. If you've been arrested or if you're under investigation, what you post, like, or even private messages can end up in court. So how does social media actually affect criminal defense? And what should you never do online during an open case? This is episode 2, how social media can wreck your criminal defense. And it is good to see you again, Robert. I know you know a lot about this topic.
Nice to see you again, John.
How often, Robert, does social media actually come into play in criminal cases today?
Quite a bit. It's very, very prevalent in like a human trafficking case, like pimping and pandering, human trafficking. That's actually how those cases are so-called solved. The police think, oh, we got you now. And in the prior days, if a prostitute is arrested, they try to get, who is your, boss? Who's your pimp? Who is it? If that person was like in the area, then they could be arrested. But now what happens is they grab their phone. They take their phone as evidence, and then either they get consent from the person, the prostitute, the so-called victim, and either they get consent from them to look through the phone or they get a warrant. And that's what happens. So then they can see who she's or he are talking to. So that's, that can be an issue in a case. So social media is big now in lots of cases. So if you're you have to be smart, and you would think right now that people would know this before they commit a crime, because if you're really going to go commit a crime, then don't make any trail of it. Don't text, your crimey. Don't text your wingman or wingwoman, your wing person, and tell them what time to meet you at the crime scene, so that, or let's talk about our exit strategy, or did you buy the gun, or did you, you really got to think about things before you do them. And because law enforcement is on it, the first thing they're going to do is grab your phone. They're going to look at your text messages. They're going to see who you called. They will get your computer if there's probable cause to get the computer. If a judge agrees there's probable cause, and the law enforcement will actually. How many times have you seen in a case where the police get your browsing history? Hey, how long does it take for arsenic to get into the bloodstream and render the person unconscious? So if you're planning on poisoning your wife, it's not really a good idea to go on your personal computer or your work computer and find out where can you buy certain poisons? What's the best way to administer it? And how long does it take?
Yeah,
Not a good idea.
yeah, 100%. So, Robert, you mentioned, you talked about text messages, browsing history, etc. Can private messages like DMs on Instagram, can deleted posts off of X, can old photos you put on Facebook, can all of that be used against a defendant as well?
Well, I don't know. The fact that they're deleted has nothing to do with there's no legal way to keep that out. And when I say keep that out, I'm talking about keep a jury from hearing it. Deleted evidence or deleted texts or DMs or you know a conversation on X or comments on X, that's still fair game. The question is whether or not the particular social media that you're talking about has a copy of it. So that's the only issue, because they have to comply with a subpoena by law enforcement. So if it still exists, then it's turned over to the police. So the fact that you delete it doesn't mean it's not accessible by law enforcement. It's like on we could talk about like possession of child pornography. People are sometimes are under the misconception that I deleted that. I deleted that child pornography, so it's not going to be on my computer. That is not the way a computer works. When you delete something, what the computer does with that, it's still on the hard drive, but it's on a different section of the hard drive waiting to be written over. And so if your hard drive isn't full, then that stuff has not been written over yet. So it takes a lot of thought if you want to go on to social media before you are committing a crime. Of course, let's really be honest here, which is why giving somebody a large sentence is so ridiculous. I'm gonna, certain jurisdictions take pride in the fact that they're a tough county. Don't commit a crime in this county. Oh, really? Okay, so Your Honor, I know you want to give the client X number of years, but your philosophy is incorrect. Okay, I understand the concept of punishment, fine. But when somebody's committing a crime, they're not thinking, oh, wow, let me go to the other county where it's an easier sentence. Anybody who's committing a crime is doing so because they don't think they're going to get caught. Nobody commits a crime and goes, I'm going to get caught for this. You think you're not going to get caught, which is why, giving a long sentence is just cruel and unusual, because you need to know a lot more about the person. So I digressed again, but
No. It's interesting. So, speaking of the person and people, how does kind of tagging or being tagged in posts impact someone's case? Like, that can get pulled into evidence too, I would assume, right? Anything that's out there on social.
I don't know. Guess what? What the fuck does being tagged mean?
So for example, no, it's a good question, but for example, you and I tag you and I say, so glad to be with Robert at our friend's party, something like that. And now all of a sudden you haven't said it, but let's say you then get arrested for a murder at the party, I've tagged you saying that we're together. That's kind of how it works.
Well, I mean, that kind of evidence, obviously, as we've talked about before, that's admissible evidence, but you've opened the door. If a prosecutor is going to use that type of evidence, then you've opened the door for me to have some wiggle room to consider a defense. That's not necessarily mean I was there or the person was there. You're tagging me, oh, so great to see you at the party. I don't know. I'm not saying that my defense to that would prevail, but that's not, it's a case by case basis. So the fact that you tagged me, nice to see me, that I could do a little bit more with that than if it came from the first person, than if it came from my client who says, hey, nice to see you at the party. So,
Got it.
these kind of questions, there is no real correct or incorrect answer to these things because it depends how, when you put the puzzle together with all the evidence, so you can see what is the evidence that the prosecutor's going to present to a potential jury. What can I do to combat that, to rebut that, to show a jury, no, I understand, ladies and gentlemen, what the prosecutor is trying to say, but that's not exactly what it does say. So
So clearly, the clients come to you after they've been arrested. So how do you advise the clients about social media once you've taken a case, and do you also advise? A lot of times, family and friends of that person will take to social media to say they're innocent, they weren't there, they've never owned a gun, almost like displaying on social why their friend or family member is not guilty of this. How do you advise your clients about all this?
well, first of all, I do get retained. That's the word we use in criminal defense. I do get retained by people before they're arrested. Federally, you get, many times you'll get a target letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office letting you know that we are investigating you. You might want to get a lawyer and have that person call me. And once that happens, then they know they can't. Once the U.S. attorney knows that they've gotten a call from a lawyer, they know you're not coming in to testify. Because a target letter normally means we're convening a grand jury. We'd like your client to come in and testify. And so that is one thing. But when people have been arrested and they contact me, I'm trying to think about whether or not I've ever had anybody who, after has been retained by me, they went online and started talking about their case or admitted to something. It wouldn't be a good idea for anybody to talk about the case going online by friends and family. I mean, there's nothing that really the prosecution can do because they have no power over the family members talking about it online, saying, Mr. or Mrs. Smith is not guilty of this crime, things like that. But so they could certainly do that. I'm not sure how effective that would be as a strategy. But, on certain high profile cases, you'll notice that, at least with celebrities, celebrities have a slew of public relations people, and they have a way of, getting articles on your news feed about what happens or what's happening. And can be effective if it's a high profile case, to be able to do that. Have your public relations machinery out there dropping hints about a case, if a case is going to go to trial. But, I normally will advise people not to ever talk about your case online, because at least with the client, that can be used as an admission, perhaps. So you don't ever want to put something in writing via social media about a pending case. So
good advice, Robert. Good advice. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of Criminal Law Unfiltered. If you're under investigation or already facing charges, it's not just what you say in court that matters. As the attorney just told us, it's what you say online. So to get experienced legal help, you can visit robertmhelfend.com. And don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe, and leave a review if today's episode helped you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.